Okay, we are here to talk about staging. That's good because, as you know, my next career is stand-up.
You're well on the way.
Okay, who wants to talk?
I can start if you want. Yeah, I think the council and the town administration both have known for quite some time that we have some space needs. DPW needs space for staging. To some extent, they do it now between Bacon and Howard Street. I think that property is not adequate. It's also surrounded by residential properties, so it's not very appropriate. We're getting ready to build a community path.
More and more residential properties,
And less room.
right?
Or build a community path, it just doesn't really make sense. So, Jerry and I talked for a long time, but we need to find an alternative solution. Second need is, the snow dump in Fulton Works, not ideal. It would be nice if we could find a place to accommodate that. Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks.
Is that at the Grove Street end?
Yes.
Down where the recycle center was?
Right.
Okay.
So we use that as a snow dump. Obviously, that's an important function also for the town when we have major snowfall. But having that in the middle of the park's not ideal on the paved
Oh,
area.
I'm the chair. Wait a minute, it's a park, you can't stage vehicles there.
No, it's a snow dump. So when we have,
Can't dump snow in a park.
well,
We
we've
do
used
dump
that
snow.
as the place to store snow in the winter for quite some time. So we need an alternative. So we've been looking for alternative places for both of those functions for quite some time. I think it makes sense for us to have a conversation tonight about maybe setting some parameters in terms of what we're looking for, and we can begin to consider some alternatives and bring them back for conversation.
Look, you can't have any more of Whitney Hill. Can't.
Well, that wasn't on the list.
Doesn't serve us well, but I hate the microphone. Can I just add something to that there too, is going back to the renovation of the DPW, our original first plan was for a salt shed to be down at the Grove Street section where the former incinerator was. Yeah, and that didn't work, as we all know, and it was actually squeezed into where we are. And we're right smack in the middle of a DPW, as you know, in a residential neighborhood, and our space is extremely limited. Our materials and products and storage have changed dramatically over time, and that just increases the need for another site. And as Mr. Magoon stated, the Howard Street area, the former railroad bed, in a sense, we feel like we're being squeezed right out of that there too. And with all the new development right beside it, I'm sure there's many problems that come down the road. And as Mr. Magoon said, the snow dump, we're not looking at staging equipment down at the snow dump, but the snow dump in itself presents some problems for renovation with the park there, that, we need that for a snow dump, so it limits what can be done down there. So getting out of there, if we were successful in getting something that handled the staging area and the snow dump, would be tremendous.
So what can we tear down?
Haven't particularly come up with a location as of yet, or what we should tear down,
But we
but
don't, it's not like if you, even Sudbury, there would be fields and fields. We don't have fields and fields.
no, and I think that, well, first off, I'm tickled pink that we're here sitting discussing this now. I think there's many problems that go along with that. I mean, just the fact that we're discussing it now and some guidance and which way we should look, or continued discussion, to me is extremely important and pleasing.
Do we know what kind of land area, or what kind of, I guess, type of land would be ideal for this type of is there if we were some old contaminated land or
Yeah,
something that you can't
brownfields.
build on or something, is there a land that's preferable that that would be?
I think, as we all know, in Watertown and with the density there,
Yeah.
and what our operation is, I think the first thing is start eliminating the areas where we don't want to be in the same situation that we're currently in, falling in the place of the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I think that starts the direction and looking on the peripherals, and
So
then
we're
taking a
talking
look
about
at.
District A.
I don't do anything by districts, Council.
Okay.
We're on TV, so just remember.
I know, I already censored.
So,
So if I could, so like how many square feet would we be looking at?
that's a good one.
I don't think we've actually 100% put that together. You know, I mean, if we could have 5, 6 acres, that'd be fantastic. But I think that, you know, we understand that we're limited. You know, it may be a long, narrow site, it could be a square site, and I think those are the things that are going to change the volume area, because it's not just, it's usable space, not just area, you know, and what we're trying to do. I mean, you know, you look at what we have is with all the material that comes in from the road construction projects, you know, those large piles of gravel, you have this precast structures, pipe, you know, and I think the other issue is there, we kind of touched upon, I haven't really touched upon, is the cemetery. You know, we've been forced to use the cemetery for some of the products as well, which hasn't sat well with the neighbors in the area, and we've been trying to change that. So basically, in a sense there, we're, you know, getting squeezed in every little which way, but we're still trying to change with the times and stay abreast of everything that's going on.
So this isn't something where like, what's happened before, like, you can't build up, right? This isn't something like you can build like a structure, right? And like do like cars on the second floor, or like do certain things, and, okay, just,
So we're talking, yeah, just,
I'm
so,
trying to make sure that's
so there's
clear.
two, so we're talking about storage of material, we're actually talking about like spoils from
yeah.
building and overlaying, like old curbstones, so that kind of stuff, that you need a place to put it while you're doing the work and then put stuff back. Not so much the storage of pipes, gate valves, and that kind of stuff, because we have some storage containers at existing DPW, and we store some of that stuff between Bacon and Howard Street. You know, when we redo Bacon and Howard Street, you know, we planning maybe to pave that and use that for some more secure material storage as opposed to dumping piles of dirt and that sort of thing, and then moving the staging where you would dump spoils from trenching and stuff that would sit there for, you know, several months and then be used to backfill somewhere else. That kind of staging as opposed to gate valves, toters, and that kind of stuff.
I would love to say that I'd like to expand upon that, but actually, the first thought of the scenario that is exactly as you described, is to deal with the spoils and such. Howard Street, you know.
It's really difficult to do that. We've been doing that there, but it's been,
Right.
Is
and
that a term of art, spoils?
It is, actually.
if you're, like this, say, doing a sewer line, you dig a
Let me
big.
ask you a question. If you're doing a mill and overlay, is what Vinnie said, like you chop up the street and then you put it back?
No, I mean, there are products that we like to recycle, but I think a better scenario and more obvious is a water construction project. You know, we take the gravel material out, and the gravel material is good. You know, you want to try and recycle that, but you can't always recycle it.
So it's
So-
just the pipe, it's not the gravel that you're replacing?
No, we end up replacing the gravel at certain times, and in that case, we may have the gravel that's unclassified or unsuitable, as we call it, that would be stored there for the time being and then hauled off when there's an appropriate site to take it to.
Which would be where?
A lot of times it goes over to Plainville, a lot of times it goes up to Chelmsford.
Don't you wish we had that much open space? Okay.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
So- But I just, you know, I've been on committees and we've been talking about this for a long time. DPW needs more staging area, and we feel your pain, but there isn't any place.
So this is the purpose here of this committee. So one thing, so we're going to be redoing the Bacon and Howard Street. I know there's been lots of complaints from dumping of gravel and old curbstones and stuff there, and the banging of trucks and front loaders, and, you know, when we redo that area, I guess, just thinking out loud, that we would maybe use that for more structured material storage, you know, even if you could stack, you know, like we have at the yard, storage containers 2 or 3 high, you could store pipes and hydrants and all kind of stuff there. They could be secured and locked and protected from the weather. And that's less of a disruption to sort of the residential abutters. Then if we were to find a site for construction staging, that we could dump all the spoils from trenching and whatnot, then by November, everything's filled in, the lot's clear, then we could use that lot for snow storage, because now all the piles of dirt will be gone. Is that sort of the thinking that you're?
Very close, very possible, except for the fact that we still need to add the storage of front-end loaders for the winter operation.
Right, you could, but, which
Yeah.
you could do, but I'm just sort of, I guess, so I guess then the challenge would be, I mean, are we talking about, 40,000 square feet, which is an acre, are we talking, I mean, what would be a workable, a 5,000 square foot site, I don't think would provide you enough room to even maneuver around.
No, not at
So it would have to be at least an acre in size, or?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think ideally, if we could find a site big enough to do all three of those, some of the things that are currently being stored at the cemetery, both kinds of storage that you're talking about, both in terms of spoils as well as, some of the other material that we're actively using in the construction project, the water or sewer project, the pipe, length of pipe, sometimes it's not appropriate to store right where the site is, and you just bring in what you're going to use that day. In that case, you would want to store, a significant amount of that product, in addition to the snow storage. So ideally, we could find a place to do all that, and Howard Street, we could look at another use for that.
You're saying snow would be possible there?
Would be possible at Howard Street or wherever we find. I'm thinking more wherever we find.
I see, okay.
I think personally, I think Howard Street makes more sense as an open space, a park, but.
Okay, Vinnie seemed to be saying, well, if we take away the other stuff, we can put snow there.
No, I said like structured storage, like with,
He's saying just the structured storage,
like shipping containers with
wherever we
materials
did
stored in it.
the soil and spoils storage, that we could use that for snow storage.
If I was living in one of those fancy apartments, that wouldn't be the view I would choose.
No,
And then
but it would be better to what's there now.
Yeah, which is.
So that's an option. But I think we should at least start with the idea of looking for the ideal, looking for a space that's big enough to do all that, which probably is more than an acre. It's probably at least 2 or 3 acres, to accommodate that. Wouldn't you say, Jerry?
So if we're looking for 2 or 3 acres, I guess, am I insane to think that would we be attempting to purchase it, or are we also open to like renting it? And if we, let's say we saw a space like just over the river in Newton, like, is that still a thing? I don't know. I do just
There's
from
a
the
law, one
perspective
town
of,
cannot own
no,
land.
not own, rent.
Said rent.
Rent.
Yeah.
I get,
see. Yeah, I was just going to try and cite that, but you're
No,
right, if
no,
it
not
was
that,
leased or
rent,
rented.
yeah. Rent from like a private person in Newton, that's like right on the border. Is that, can you do that? Or,
you could, but I guess my thought would be, after considering it for a long time in terms of at least dealing with it in Watertown, I'd offer 2 thoughts. One, it's a big enough issue and a hard enough one to solve that I'm not sure we want to do it on a rental basis
okay.
and revisit this in a couple of years or something like that. And 2, I can tell you, at least from my perspective, when I get approached from a company that's doing a sewer construction project in Boston and they want a staging area and they don't have one in Boston, and gosh, would really like to use some property in Watertown to do that, my reaction is not a real positive one. So I can imagine that,
Yeah.
not that I would just say flat out no, we look at that, but, I think it would be a tough sell for Newton to say, yeah, we're going to come over and use
Okay.
Newton for our staging area.
Good to know.
Yes, sir.
It's fairly obvious that we don't have a lot of these properties, but I think what you could be requesting is to get an inventory of what could be available from an acre or 2 acres and up, that we could then take a tour and
Well, okay, but I would, like, if we took your house and the house next door and the house
Yeah,
next door to
yeah.
that, we might end up with an acre and a
Well,
half.
I think I'm thinking a little differently. You're not taking 3 houses, but there are buildings or there are areas in town that have that kind of square footage. Some of them are underutilized at this point.
Right, okay.
And just to give you an idea, I think one of the priorities would be, we would not be in a residential
Yeah.
neighborhood. We would want to have something more in an industrial zone.
What we find is the way, as Steve always has a nice way of putting it, the way Watertown historically developed, so we have a medical marijuana facility that I don't think is in a neighborhood, but the neighbors think it is in a neighborhood. And there really aren't very many places in Watertown that are far, far, far away from, houses.
You could also say that the former Paroli site was almost run like a public works yard with what was going on over
Why
there.
we let go of
And-
that,
And when that was going in its heyday,
right,
it was, the neighbors were right there. It was very, very busy.
right. And you're saying nobody complained. Well, nobody loved it,
Nobody loved it, but again, that's just where
right.
some of that coexistence happened.
So I like the idea of maybe sending the administration off to sort of do an inventory of a group of potentially suitable sites.
And by potentially suitable, we're saying as defined by not near residents, is 2 or 3 acres. What else are our parameters there? I guess would be able to accomplish the job, so it's not like a, it geographically fits.
Level. It has to be a
So-
pretty level
Yeah.
site.
So not near residences.
To the extent that that's possible.
Well, I mean,
I
think the list is gonna be too big.
plus, more than an acre.
Yeah, acre plus.
We need someplace that's relatively flat.
Yeah.
Would you agree, if we had a brownfield site, that would be first choice?
I don't think it matters. It would be cheaper to purchase, obviously.
I think that's a double-edged sword because it would be less expensive, but then we still have to deal with whatever contamination there is from that brownfield.
Well, not if it's reuse is not, I mean.
We could cap it.
Yeah, it depends on reuse, how much you have
Just
to do.
saying we have to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think, and just, within Watertown, and I
Yeah,
think,
within Watertown.
And then also sort of, each site's going to be a different size and shape and location. So just sort of like a rough idea of how you would potentially use each site, because some may be heavier for dirt storage and snow storage, some may lend itself more to structured, enclosures for storing materials. Some, there may be different things. Some may be more suitable for, storing of equipment. I know we store snowplows during the summer, so just sort of what you need to store and each site, how you would maybe approach that. And I think once,
And any pros and cons that would go along with it?
Sounds good.
By the way, just in case anybody was in doubt, when I said District A, that was a joke. Want to be really clear about that.
so if we have that, if you could take, I don't know how long you think that would take to sort of put something like that together and.
I don't think it would take that long to put together a list of properties.
It's not like there's so many.
The one thing I do have a hesitation about is how publicly we want to discuss that before.
Well, I think and again, because of the sensitive nature, I think you could sort of say a lot that's the size in an industrial zone in the East End lot that's the size. I wouldn't give a street address.
I would think that could be executive session, the value of real property.
Well, we haven't gotten to that. Well, unless you think, or if you could just sort of itemize, here's 10 properties.
10?
Well, I'm just saying for example, here's 10 properties. This one's 30,000 square feet. This one's 50,000 square feet. This one is in, the I-1 zone, and it doesn't abut any residential properties. This is in the I-3 zone, it's industrial on 3 sides, and one side's residential.
They got it.
One's in the east end, one's in the west end, one's in the center. I mean, just sort of, so we can just sort of think about something, and then I think at some point, we would need to refer it to
Well, the
executive
question is
session.
at what point, but you guys can work that out.
Well, I think at some point, this committee would want to refer it back to the whole council to discuss it in executive session.
Right, I'm saying, Steve could come and say, I have a little list, and we could say, great, we'll go to executive session and talk about your list.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of how long to do that,
Half an hour? Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so let's go.
So can I have a motion to request the council to request that of Mr. Magoon?
You don't have to do that.
We already got the referral.
You can request him to get more information back to the committee to report.
Right, because we've already got the referral from the council to do this. We don't need to go back to it.
Cool.
So, do you want to make a motion, want me to make a motion to ask the
Yeah, but
administration
make it short.
to identify potentially suitable sites that are, preferably not near residences, greater than an acre in size, flat in Watertown. Also describe how storage will be used, pros and cons of each site, and do not identify the street addresses of each site, but just identify sort of general characteristics. And bring a report back to the committee.
I think we do have to, don't we have to make a recommendation for the full council? Isn't that what Mark Rich said at the last meeting?
No, only if it's something that hasn't been already referred to the council, but this was actually voted by the council to be referred to the council, so we're just this is in the middle of the work.
You can ask them to gather all the information and bring back.
What was referred is that we would look for,
And
looking for a site.
what Mark Rich,
Was asking anything of.
no, not
do
anything.
work.
If it has, and what we did is, we actually made a request about design of an intersection, which actually wasn't the council never voted to refer that, they just voted to have us explore other options.
Yeah.
So but the council specifically voted us to explore areas for staging for the DPW, which is what we're doing.
Yeah, I don't know, I thought it was, I don't want to get hung up on this, but like, I thought it was very different. I can't ask Steve to do anything. I have to ask the manager or tell the manager to ask Steve to do something.
No, but the council already asked us to work with Steve on this.
Work with the
It's
administration.
irrelevant. If they told us to do this, we're pursuing it, but in that pursuit, we're still asking directly the committee to do it. I don't know, maybe we should get that cleared up at some point.
No, we already we already got the clarification that if the council specifically voted,
What was the issue that,
wasn't, but
what was the thing that wasn't okay to do the last time?
something that hadn't been voted as a
Do you remember
referral,
what it was?
the traffic light of Main Street and Waverly Avenue, about redesigning it to move with signal prioritization and moving the bus stop on the other side. That was one of the things that came out of the Transportation Committee, that of potential future steps. So what was referred to explore potential future steps, that was one of the things that came up, but the council never weighed in on that because it was something that was on a list of potential options.
Steve?
I was just suggest that maybe a way to address the councilor's concern would just ask the administration to come back with, the recommendations of properties, blah, 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 blah. Just make it ask the administration as opposed to ask me.
Yeah, ask the administration.
That way it
Yeah.
addresses that.
Perfect, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, that's the motion.
Okay.
Second?
Can all in favor?
Aye.
Can somebody explain to me why it's different asking Steve or asking the administration?
The manager's part of the administration, so
Excellent.
technically that's still.
So you wouldn't be doing it without the manager's knowledge and approval? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Or his designee? Okay.
As we plan everything, yes.
All right, is there any other business to come before this committee?
None posted.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.